Hey, what's up? Uh, Going over some Hammer films. Big Hammer fan. I was a kid. I remember they'd be on television all the time. They used to scare the hell out of me and my mother. They'd usually be on Saturdays. As my mother used to say, we'd watch them from the kitchen. Of course, these DVDs, the DVD revival came out probably around the early 2000s. And as an adult, I bought these around that time and appreciated them. I mean, by the 2000s, so many of these people that had made these films had passed on. And watching them now, I always say good classic horror, um, whether from the 30s or the 50s or the 60s or even the 70s, the stuff ages like fine wine, okay? To me, I know younger people can't watch these films, and that's their loss. To me, as someone who remembers people from literally the early part of the last century, we're in between worlds, those of us of Gen X who remember this stuff. Anyway, let's go through some of these films. These are the three of them are from the 70s. That's like the last decade of Hammer. A lot of people say the films went down in quality. I don't agree. There was more blood, there was more craziness, there was more very buxom and beautiful women. Some of it was to compete with the continental offerings that were coming from Italy and Spain and France. And I think Hammer held their own. There's a lot of other movies I can go over. These are just four because I don't, I try to keep the videos. I can only get about 15 minutes out. I'm not, they want all kinds of stuff for longer videos, and I'm not doing that. So we'll go here. We'll start out. All these films were on television, like I said, probably cut. Captain Kronos, Vampire Hunter, is probably the least scary of them. It's an action film. It's a western, basically, and a mystery. They wanted to make a series of these films, but like I said, this came out in '74. 2 years later, Hammer would be done in '76, just before Star Wars comes out. And it was cool. You had a continental German vampire hunter, essentially, from the Napoleonic era, going around the English countryside, hunting vampires with his assistant, Professor Grost, who was a hunchback, basically inverting the hunchback as a brutish, evil henchman trope. And like I said, it's a western. The people in the village are not too happy with him, but he's pretty good with a sword. In fact, he has two swords. He has a European, I'd say by this time it's already a small sword, not a rapier, if you want to get nerdy about it, and a katana. And he also likes to smoke a Chinese herb to relax himself. So there's a lot of humor in this film, but it's essentially a mystery. The issue is that there's different kind of vampires, and they have different weaknesses. And the vampires are not showing themselves; they're actually being smart. So not only do him and his assistant have to find out who the vampire is, but which kind of vampire it is, so they can find a way to destroy it. Very interesting. There's a really cool scene in there where the hunchback professor is a very sensitive type, and he gets picked on by the locals for his appearance. And his friend Kronos basically tells him, the body you have was given to you by God. Okay. He kills those guys that insulted him too. But anyway, and the end is cool. There's a sword fighting scene, a very good classical fencing sword fighting scene, where Kronos has to basically have a duel with a vampire master swordsman. So you can imagine having a duel with a vampire. There's only one weak spot on the vampire, the heart. While the vampire can stab you in any way it wants, but he is clever and he's ready for it. He actually has a couple of tricks up his sleeve, and it turns out there's more than one vampire. But the beautiful Caroline Munro is in there. Such a gorgeous woman, jeez. So this was a lot of fun. And like I said, it influenced Vampire Hunter D. There's no question of that. The anime novel series. Good stuff. I mean, this is an excellent film. Okay, let's go to another 70s Hammer film. This one is Blood from the Mummy's Tomb is a good title. This is an extremely bloody film with another, oh my god, absolutely gorgeous woman, Valerie Leon, who is actually a blonde. I guess she was wearing a wig for this, or she dyed her hair. I always like when an actor and actress plays double roles. Okay, she's actually playing this Queen Terra, was an evil sorceress from the ancient Egyptian dynasties, or dynasties as they say in the UK. And she's a modern woman. It's based on the Bram Stoker story, The Jewel of Seven Stars, which I have and I haven't gotten to read yet. The film is, how can I say, it's, you're not sure what time period it takes in, which adds to the surrealness of it. It's very mean spirited, the way it's shot. There's like a hopeless feel to it. Basically, the queen is trying to get back her relics that were taken in the archaeological dig, and one by one, the possessed modern descendant, or the modern woman possessed by her spirit, uses, I guess, sorcery to murder each member of the team and take the relics so that they can revive her. It's really kind of cool. I saw this parts of this as a kid. I was terrified. Okay, it's funny because there's a troubled production. The director died. Peter Cushing was starring in it. He had to leave. His wife died, and they actually had to have Michael Carreras, who's one of the Hammer owners. I think the son had to come in and direct and shoot whole scenes of it. It's a very, like I said, a very ugly film. One of the villains does like an Oscar Wilde impression, and he's actually a very sinister Fae sort of person, which is problematic today, right? There's also a very disturbing thing. One of the best murder scenes is in the asylum, where one of the expedition guys is totally insane and is murdered, trapped in his cell in a straitjacket. But the orderlies are like these sadistic homosexuals. And there's also another scene later with a few other things. Now, decadence, whatever. I have no problem with that. But it's just very, I don't know. When I actually watch this again, it's just I don't know. It gets under your skin. Christopher Wicking also was the screenwriter for The Oblong Box, another film that really, for gothic horror, it really straddles that line of being just, I don't know, just very bleak, which is up my alley, actually. So, anyway, very good. And a little shout out to the music by Tristram Cary, who's known for being an electronic music pioneer. Here, his compositions are with actual orchestral instruments, very atmospheric in the Egyptian style. Okay, and wow, yeah, I know. Keeping the decadence going, because it's all decadence, isn't it? We have this film, which actually is not campy in the slightest. Basically, Dr. Jekyll takes the potion and turns into a woman. Now, this sounds very, as you can imagine, but it's actually done very well. Roy Ward Baker, I remember I had covered him in the previous video I did around Halloween time in Rue Morgue. No, not Rue Morgue, sorry, Dark Side, the Dark Side magazine, probably the best horror magazine out there from England. In the film, it mixes Jack the Ripper, Burke and Hare, if you know who Burke and Hare were, okay? The Portrait of Dorian Gray, and of course, the original Robert Louis Stevenson story. What's interesting about it is it's shot basically on sets. Even I think they built the damn, the Whitechapel section of London. They pretty good built it up from scratch. It's mostly indoors. And the thing I like about it is that Ralph Bates and, of course, Martine Beswick, who I believe is like half Portuguese, they actually resemble fraternal twins, so it works. He's actually a decent, progressive-minded guy in over his head. His female half, the female persona, she's actually, this is the problematic part, she's actually the vicious murderess. and she starts to dominate him. They have a battle of wills that culminates in a rather problematic ending. Uh, the politically incorrect fact that women have weaker grip strength, especially when they're hanging from a rooftop, is kind of probably not wouldn't be allowed today. But the fact that the woman is the more vicious of the two is absolutely fascinating. I saw this on television as a kid. Had no idea what was going on. Had no idea who she was, why she kept popping up and he kept disappearing. Now I know why, and the ending too is just bizarre. You know, great. Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, recommended. There's a lot of Hammer films I could recommend, but I only have so much time. And this film, I think I probably saw this one before the others, and I had no idea what was going on. The Lost Continent. Now, this is based on that writer Dennis Wheatley. Now, The Devil Rides Out, one of the films where Christopher Lee is actually a hero, a satanic hero, which is really kind of cool in a way. This is another novel the guy did, kind of like an adventure novel or what have you. But even the Hammer touch on it makes it very very dark. A lot of really violent deaths. The creatures are really they're low budget, but it's hard to describe it. I didn't know what was going on watching this as a kid, but you know what I'm gonna do is I've been just showing you the box covers. Let's show you the trailer of this film. Okay. The usual Hammer actors aren't in this, other than Michael Ripper, who's just in the beginning. The hero captain is actually a smuggler who, because of his illegal activities, gets all these people in a heap load of trouble as they go into a mysterious sea that's surrounded by man-eating seaweed. The FX is interesting. The creatures are actually life-sized. The only miniatures that they have are of like ships, but the monsters they build, which are actually like mechanical and frenetic, the way they move was like, I remember as a kid I was just freaking out. They made them life-size, so they didn't try to do like a giant, like a person in a suit. They actually made these contraptions, which is very interesting for Hammer. They weren't really known for miniature work or for giant monsters or what have you. But enough of me yapping. Let's see. Let's go here. Who's that guy?
Here, where a million years are but a moment. Here, where the present and the past tremble in the presence of the prehistoric.
How poetic.
Here comes an
That was a
adventure
miniatures.
so big that only the big screen can
Hammer's
do it
not really
justice.
known for that stuff. Yeah.
The Lost Continent, discovered in all its monstrous...
Oh, look, you see this scene here with the blood? As a kid, I got nauseous watching that. I didn't expect that.
hell that time forgot.
Oh, that's it. That's your ass. That's it, bro.
This is the man who brought them to the Lost
He's a
Continent.
criminal smuggler is the hero.
Of the past.
Oh, so yeah, it's probably like originally an adventure novel, but this thing is really violent, extremely violent. So let me cut ahead here to some more monsters because
Our future begins.
let's see. Let me run into like conquistadors. Uh oh, don't look at that. All right, right here. This scared the hell out of me. I had to look away from this when I was a kid. Oh my god.
Mr. Weed attack healthy.
What the hell's going on? What did I smoke? Alright, just kidding.
Giant
Son. Got you, son. And that's like a life-size... Look, this battle was amazing. I don't know who designed it.
man struggled to destroy the evil of the Lost Continent. From the novel Uncharted Seas by Dennis Wheatley.
Right. Yeah, it turns into like action, it's crazy.
On the Lost Continent.
Alright, so these are some cool Hammer films. How you gonna watch them? I don't know, but I showed them to you. All right, later.